Are you comfortable after football?
Yes, I'm comfortable after football. 2010 was my best year in my career. Going to that game against Brazil we knew it was a tough game for us. Ghanaians knew it. So people felt hurt because of the timing when the penalty was made. I cried. That was the first time something hit me. It would have even ended my career.
I promise you something. This interview will be absolutely worth the wait, because basically it's impossible to discuss the Black Stars of Ghana and the history of the World Cup without talking to the gentleman I'm going to be talking to. And I'll throw you back to a few times. 20 years ago, as Ghana was preparing to play at the first ever World Cup in places like Scotland, and when we played against South Korea, we were in England to play against Jamaica and the rest. Nobody envisaged that a young man who made his debut against Somalia in Accra and then scored against them in Kumasi Asua will become the face of Ghana in the World Cup. But on one afternoon in the German city of Cologne, Asamoah Gyan scored his first goal for Ghana in the World Cup. Ghana's first ever goal at that level. He could have gone on to score many more. He missed the penalty. And then subsequent to that, more goals followed in 2010, in 2014, 6 of them in all. 6 goals, that means that he scored more goals than anybody from the continent in the history of the World Cup. More goals than Didier Drogba at the World Cup. More goals than Samuel Eto'o. More goals than the great Roger Milla. And goals that has edged him in the history of Ghana. So whilst we walked through the period leading up to the World Cup in conversations with people like Kweja Asamoah and everybody, I said to his manager, Sami and him, if I don't speak to Gyan, this is incomplete. So today I chased him. I was at the British High Commission House. That's like proper marking. So Gyan, thank you very much.
Thank you,
I know I was proper man marking you. And even though I've spoken to you so many times, because I remember speaking to you even after your first goal for Ghana against Somalia. Everybody was under Ravzum. This was many, many years ago. I wanted to have this particular one. What does the period around this, close to the World Cup, remind you yourself of yourself?
Yeah, it comes with everything. First time Ghana qualified to the World Cup. I remember. I always say I prophesied it when I was in school, when I was in JSS. At that time, I told my friends, because that time Ghana had never qualified. So I used to tell them the first time I will wear the jersey, that is when we're going to qualify. We said it jokingly and everything, and lo and behold, we were able to qualify. And also my first game against Somalia, when I made my debut, I came on, even being on the bench, it was okay for me. I was very, very happy. Because Rav Zumdik had confidence in us. We took about 4 players from the Olympic team to the senior team. I remember it was I think Daniel Koma, Chipsa was there, but Chipsa was not able to wear. It wasn't in the 18, the first 18. I think Dan Koma, Chipsa, Kojo Poku Mahala. And there was one as well. I think Yahuza or something, But I was the only, me and Kojo Poku. I think I was the only one who was able to make it to the 18. And I came on, and the rest was history. So
it was history. I remember very well. So we beat Somalia. The home and away was played in Accra and Kumasi.
Yes.
Because they were not fit enough to host matches.
Yes.
And then the qualifiers themselves started, not many games. What do you remember of the early stages? Because the one that I remember really well then was when we went to Kinshasa. Full stadium, 80,000, every training session was with soldiers and the rest guiding the team to training. And then you scored a really big goal. That was the one that made it 1-1 in that particular game. Yeah. What was the qualifying campaign like?
Yes, going into that game, I think that time my brother was ahead of me, as a starter. Yeah. He was Barreto's choice, to be a starter. And I think around that time he was preparing for his engagement. So I think on that very day that we played the game, he was having his engagement. I wasn't able to go. So I had to just take that responsibility. And for me, I think that game was one of my best games I've ever played for the national team. Going to Congo, they had issues, there was. I remember
and they had good players too.
Very, very good. We had Shabadi Nonda. At that time, he was in top shape. And I remember when we got there, the players who were a bit scared because first time going to a war zone, most of the players, and personally, I was very, very young at that time, and I always see wars and everything on TV, and going to that territory was a problem for me. I remember we went to the ambassador's house to eat and everything because
and then the Ghana soldiers based there.
The Ghana soldiers based there, and so that preparation to that game was something else. One of my best games. Lo and behold, I was able to score a crucial goal. That very, very, we took that 1 point because we were leading on that game. I scored a very, very crucial goal, and then the last minute, Shabadi Nonda equalized. So we had to take that 1 point. So it was very, very crucial points for us in that group stage.
The thing I remember most from that game, though, was the atmosphere in the stadium. It's not something that was that a fresh reminder for you of how difficult playing away in Africa would be?
Honestly, the first one was against Uganda. We went to Uganda. They were I think it was on holiday or something, and it was a frigate.
Yeah.
And
the Mandela Stadium.
Yes, and that they built their stadium from how the Asians build their stadium, with very huge capacity. If it could be 80,000 or something, if I could remember.
I mean, they can pack it well.
Yes, it was full. That game was full. And coming to the game against Congo, I had already witnessed the one in Uganda. And that day was also full. Like, it was crazy. And people were even standing outside. That was when I got to, I had never seen a huge crowd like that. Although I played in Accra Sports Stadium, but our stadium wasn't bigger than what they have in Congo. And at that young age, I had already scored a very crucial goal against Uganda already. So the confidence level was a bit high. So as I said, it was one of my best games for the national team.
So basically, you had a really good introduction to the national team. World Cup qualifiers, big games away from home. Did you go into the 2006 World Cup then thinking this is going to be my tournament?
Honestly, I had confidence in myself. I was very, very lucky. I started very, very well from the local league. With Liberty Professionals. I was more consistent with the team. Although I scored 10 goals. I was traveling, going for trials and everything. For me, I always say I could have been a top scorer in that year, if not of this traveling and then going to trials and so from there I had that confidence. First league game against Accra Suffolk, beating a scorer against Accra Suffolk, it boosted my confidence. Because one of the biggest teams in Ghana, if I was able to score against that team, and that time we didn't have a lot of radio stations, a lot of media, so we used to hear
these things a bit more.
People were saying they should invite me to the national team.
And Tuesday you'll be in graphic sports.
So going into the World Cup, I was very, very confident because I had a whole country behind me as one of the youngest players who was doing so well. And I went to that time I was in Modena. At that time I was also scoring in Modena and everything. So everything was working for me. So going into our first World Cup, although at that early age, at that young age, I was very, very confident. And I was already 3 years in the national team, so playing alongside Stephen Appiah, Michael Essien, and all these players, I had already had the confidence already. So going there, I didn't know I was going to perform that much, but I had confidence in myself that something was going to happen.
The only thing I remember from the Italy game in Hanover was of I think it was maybe just the emotion at the national anthem. What did you feel when the anthem? Because literally everybody was crying. Even some of the people in the stands. What was the team talk before you guys went on the pitch that day?
Yeah, honestly, it was our first World Cup. We were inexperienced. We didn't know how the World Cup was. Although we've been watching it on TV and everything. I remember going into the pitch for the warm-up. When we entered, we saw everywhere blue. And then you can see
the Italians were all over.
They were all over. And then you can see maybe at the right side, there's some corner. You can see
and
then you can see a lot of few Ghanaians over there. The whole place was blue, and I was like, "This is football." So I've forgotten the team talk. I've forgotten exactly what it, but I remember, of course, the captain himself, Stephen Appiah. He is the way he's like. He's like I don't remember the exact words he said, but I remember he psyching us up for that tournament because I was playing in Italy at that time, but I wasn't playing in Syria.
Yeah. So you're in Syria B then?
Yeah, I was in Syria B doing well there. Although I was loaned from Udinese. And Steven had already made his name, playing the top league, top teams there and everything, So he was giving us much more about the Italian teams, because he had played at that top level at that time, So yeah.
So that game doesn't go as planned, and then the second game, everything changed. What changed in the second game? That second game against Czech Republic, because remember, that was supposed to be Ghana's most difficult game.
Yeah.
They were ranked number 2 in the world. Peter Cech, Rosicki, they had what's this tall guy's name? They had Yankula, all those. And it was a game that a lot of Ghanaians were convinced we were going to lose. What changed in that game?
Yeah, what changed was the first game. Because Italy had the best players in the world. But if you watch the game, there was no difference. We matched them boot for boot. It was just some inexperience, and a couple of mistakes that made them score. Yeah. If you watch the game, we were able to match them. So going there, we were like, if we were able to match Italy, and that time statistically, when you talk about history, Italy was ahead of Czech Republic. Yeah. And that particular year, Czech Republic was the most informed team.
Yeah.
Going
number
there.
2 in the world, actually.
Number 2 in the world. Yeah. But we were talking about history. We were watching that history that Italy had over Czech Republic. Yeah. So if we were able to match Italy, it was just a small issue that made us lose the game. We can beat them. So I remember I was in the room, and I told my brother, he was in a standby at the time, and he watched the Italy game, and he was flying back to Ghana. Yeah. And I said, if he goes to Ghana, tell Ghanaians I'm going to score against Czech Republic. And he's like, are you sure? I said, yeah, just go and announce it. When you grant interview, tell them, or you tell your friends I'm going to score, because I had that feeling I was going to score.
And then, was it 1 minute or so into the game? Some of us had not even sat down properly in the stadium. Did you see that pass from Jan coming, or from Steven coming?
Yes. I went like a normal game. As a striker, everybody expects you to score, so like I took it as a normal game. Although I had that belief I was going to score because I'd already told my brother, so I didn't know the goal was going to come that early. There was a corner kick. It was headed out. Yeah. And then I was in the offside position at that time. The ball headed out. And Steven did his individual brilliance. He did his tricks and everything. So I was in the offside position. And he's somebody, when he has the ball, he looks at the striker. His first option is the striker. Yeah. When you don't make any movement, then he will change and try to play. So I was in offside position. So when he did his tricks and he succeeded, he was alone. So when he looked, I was in offside position. So I had to come onside, and then he crossed the ball, and I chested. I chested down to my left foot, and then I shot it.
Against Peter Cech, one of the best goalkeepers in the world.
Yes.
Even at the time, remember you had gone to Chelsea, and everybody was talking about him. How big was it for you? Because if I remember, you were not sure how to celebrate. You ran to the corner flag, and then you touched your What was it? What was it to indicate?
Yeah, that time I had a contract with Puma and with Lotto at that time. They came to the hotel and they proposed if I score a goal, I should do something to advertise the.
You understood the commercialism.
Yes. So I said, okay, I'll think about something. So when I scored, they didn't even know I was going to do that. Nobody knew I was going to do that. Yeah. So that thing was money right there.
I like that spirit. And it was the beginning of utterly dominating that game. When you reflect, do you think you should have scored more goals in that game?
Yes. Going back, I watched the game. If I can remember, I watched the game like 5 times. And so I was 30 years. When I was 30 years, I said to myself, if I was 30 years at that time, I would have buried all. Because that time I had the experience, my finishing touches had improved. I had a couple of chances because we We played 10 against 11 from the first half.
Yeah.
And we dominated them.
Yeah.
But I think I should have had a hat-trick.
Yeah.
Minimum. I should have gotten
because
a hat-trick.
you had so many chances. And in fact, you missed the penalty as well.
Yes, I missed the penalty.
Yes. So it could easily have been 2 goals. But everybody, especially after, and then you set up Sule
Yes.
for the second goal. So if it was these days when statistics dominate, the headline would have been Gyan scores goal, provides assist. So 2 goals contribution in that.
Yeah.
You must have slept very well that night.
I did. Even that penalty miss, when I missed that penalty, it took my mind back to academicals. Academicals against Nigeria in Nigeria.
The national schools team.
The national school team. We beat them 2-0 there. I missed the same penalty. It hit the post. The same place. Like my technique, everything was. So when I missed that penalty, it took my mind back to academicals.
Yeah.
But overall, I had a great game. It was like I was also fit. I didn't get tired. Secondly, we had advantage over them, 11 against 10. And everything seemed to work. After the game, I was very, very satisfied. Very, very.
Were you sent off in that game or you got a second yellow card?
I had a yellow card during the penalty shootout. The first one I scored.
Yeah.
But the referee said he didn't whistle, and I shot it because I heard a whistle from the crowd.
Yeah.
So that was when I had my first yellow card.
Yeah.
And I think the second yellow card was.
It was towards the end of the same game, I think.
My first yellow card was against Italy.
Right, yeah.
Italy.
Yeah.
It was a simulation.
Yeah.
I wanted a penalty. Yeah. So the second yellow card was against Czech Republic, and then I missed the game against USA.
But the game against USA, you were sitting down, so you were on the bench. Razak Pimpon replaces you.
Yes.
And it was Aminu Dramani who scored the goal.
First goal.
Because we had been criticizing Dramani throughout. When he scored, we were all hiding in the corner in Nuremberg and saying, Aminu Dramani had scored. How happy were you when Ghana qualified for the next stage? Because it meant another opportunity for you to play another World Cup game.
Yes, it was a fulfilling dream for us because going into the tournament for the first time, of course, everybody was ruling Ghana out. That moment was okay for me personally. Yeah. It was a first step as an African team being able to qualify from a group stage. Yeah. Because playing against Italy, Czech Republic was in form at that time, and America was also in form at that time. Yeah. So getting out from that group stage, personally, my heart was at peace. Yeah. So the rest.
There are those who say that because of that, you guys didn't approach the Brazil game with the same intensity. It was as if all of you were happy that you were already into the next round of the competition. Was that a problem, you think?
For me, psychologically, I would say every Ghana was thinking that way. Okay. If everybody wouldn't be hypocrite and say,
everybody was happy.
Everybody was happy. Like we were able to qualify from the group stage. And meeting Brazil was a 50-50 game. Yeah. It wasn't even a 50-50 game. If we are honest, because they were more experienced than us. They had that golden generation, Ronaldo, Rivaldo, and everybody.
Adriano and all those players.
Sometimes it's sports. When you are going to play against a top team, you are going to play against a top team. Hey, Charlie, we won't get. But still, it doesn't mean when you get opportunity, you will not win. You have the respect. You have the respect for that team. But sometimes people very, very hypocrite, and then we in the game we understand it. So going to that game against Brazil we knew it was a tough game for us. Ghanaians knew it. Yeah. So we had to just make sure we stick to our game plan. Make sure we get them early, and things can change. Yeah. So if you could remember, we were playing. Our tactic was we were very, very high in defense.
People were joking on X Twitter the other day that long before anybody started playing, Barcelona started playing highline. Ghana was doing that at the World Cup. But you guys returned to Ghana as heroes. I will never forget this. My 5-year-old nephew at the time, who lives in England now, he basically remembers every single player from that side. how big was it for you when you came back and when you went back to visit your mother in Bawe, when you went back to the school? You came back and everything had changed completely, hadn't it?
Yes, it was a great moment. As I said, my heart was at peace. I feel like we were able to deliver, although we didn't go that far, but even playing against that generation, against that Brazilians, it wasn't even a bad game. We played really, really well.
Mm.
We could have even scored, because when they scored the first goal, John Mensah headed the ball,
Yeah.
and then Dida was like that, and then some miraculous save, which could have even changed the game.
Yeah.
So we were very, very good. We played very, very well in that game. So coming home, I was very, very happy. I was proud of myself. My family was proud of me. So there was no pressure. It even boosted my confidence.
What did that competition, what did that go against Czech Republic? What did the performance, that assist, what did it do for your football career from that day?
It's really changed me. It changed me totally, because playing in Serie B at that time, after the World Cup, I was like a World Cup material, So I had 3 years left with Udinese, So they had to call me back because I did so well in the World Cup, and then they felt like now I can compete in Serie A. And that time there were a lot of teams who wanted my signature, but the concrete one was Lokomotiv Moscow at that time. So it was a very, very huge contract offer. So I said yes. I will pursue that deal. So when I came, Juventus wanted to sign Yaquinta from Udinese.
Yeah.
So Udinese didn't let me go. So they had to change my contract that I came with at that young age. My contract was a small pay. So I became the second highest paid player in the Udinese after Di Natale.
Okay.
Immediately after the World Cup. So that was when I felt like, hey, I've done something that the world has seen my quality and my talent.
So for you, the World Cup wasn't just playing; it changed you in many, many ways.
It changed me in many ways. Every place, I realized World Cup was every player's dream. When you play in the World Cup, it's like you've reached the ultimate. And I always say I'm very, very lucky to be part of it. Playing the World Cup at that early age. For the whole world to see what I could do. And honestly, Ghanaians also, and it brought a lot of female sports fans in Ghana, because before we had just small 1 or 2
Nobody was interested
who goes to the stadium. But after the World Cup, even when Ghana was coming, after the World Cup, when we were coming to play or train in Ghana, like a lot of females and everybody, their jeans and their t-shirt, they were even more than the male supporters. So
especially in Kumasi.
Yes. So we created a lot of atmosphere. I think that particular tournament, that World Cup, brought the love of football itself in Ghana.
Then we went to the 2008 Nations Cup, and I remember the period before the competition started. The pre-camping period in Dubai, the fights over who gets into the team, the Takashi training sessions, the first game against Guinea, the Namibia game, the problems. Did you feel like you had gone from this high of the World Cup, and with everything that happened in the Nations Cup, to this low, given everything that happened with you and the Nations Cup in 2008?
Yes, I think that year was one of the most difficult years in my career, because I was very, very injured from the club level. I was injured. I wasn't playing.
You used to get lots of injuries in that period.
Yes.
What was the problem with that?
I think muscle injuries. I think I had muscle in my quadriceps. So I remember that time, because of the World Cup, Man City was monitoring me. And Sir Ericsson, he really loved me. That man really loved me. So he was following me at that time. So he wanted my signature when he became the coach of City at that time. So I was also doing my rehab. And then I remember my manager, Claudio, told me we should forget about the AFCON, so that I'll be fit to go and sign for Man City at that time. So, and that time I had already missed The 2006 World Cup, because
The AFCON, yeah.
AFCON in 2006.
The one in Egypt, yeah?
The one in Egypt. I was in camp. I think the last training that I got injured. That was when I did my first knee operation. I got a knee injury. So I couldn't make it to the team. I had to fly. So I told my manager, I missed the 2006. That would have been my first.
And this one is home.
Yes, and this one is home. So I have to do everything possible to play in this one. So he didn't like it, but I wanted to. And then I came. So
on hindsight, do you think you should have listened to his advice?
I think I should have listened to his advice. But I had to just sacrifice, because I just wanted to sacrifice for the nation. So in the Dubai campaign, I wasn't even training that much. I was not more consistent. But the coach, Claudio, had trust in me. He knew if I'm on the field, I can just sacrifice and do something. So sometimes during the tournament, I had to be injected to chloroform the pain and then go and play. Unfortunately, I didn't think I had a bad game. I played so well, but I think I missed some couple of chances that Ghanaians didn't like, and then everything.
Yeah. Were you shocked by the reaction then? Because you scored against Guinea in the first game. Then against Namibia, everybody expected you to score a hat trick and more, and then it didn't happen. And then one thing led to another. I remember the hotel in Fiesta always packed. Were you shocked by people's reaction?
Very shocked.
Or it reminded you how much people liked the Black Stars?
Yes, I was very, very shocked, because that was the first time, honestly, I felt that criticisms. From 2003, everything was perfect. Yeah. I never had any criticism from anybody in Ghana. So that tournament, and it was the game against Namibia, which Ghanaians thought we should have beaten them like 10. Yeah, so
because we still won that game.
Junior Agogo, may so rest in peace. He got a goal. He had a great tournament, and there was a ball at acute angle. It was a 50-50 with the goalkeeper. The goalkeeper came down, stopped the ball. So I jumped over him because I knew I couldn't do anything. And lo and behold, he fumbled. He left the ball. So the fans were shouting. So when I turned, the ball was there. So it was an acute angle. So I just turned and then shot, and then the ball went
over the bar.
That was it. Yeah. So after the game, my mom called me, and then she was crying on the phone. Yeah. So I was like, that time I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
So when she was crying, she said I should go out because she knew I was in pain at that time, that like I was sacrificing at that time, and those with me knew I was sacrificing for the team. Yeah. But he felt like people didn't see what was going on behind the scene, and it was like, if you are sacrificing and people don't see,
better not to get involved.
Better don't risk yourself again, and then go back home and go and have your treatment.
But the thing that I always say, and I was saying the other day, that when you discuss Gyan and the ability to come back, whether in the Uruguay game, in the missed penalty, and the main penalty stage, I like to think of it as starting with the Nations Cup in 2008. So in that tournament, you get heavily criticized. Then in 2010, you go to Angola, and when nobody expects that team to do well, absolutely nobody, you become the guy who, so against Angola, against Nigeria, you scored 3 goals that were responsible for taking Ghana to the final. Was that your way of saying, don't count me out yet?
Yes. That year, 2010 was I always say, it was my best year in my career. Because after 2008, the hammer had already been done.
So you took some time off for about 6 months to completely heal?
Because I went to Spain to have the operation. I had an operation, and I was out for like almost 6 months. So I had to just heal myself and came back. So I started from 2009, late 2009 to 2010. Because we had a new coach at that time from club, scoring goals. That was when I regained my form. So going into Angola, I was in the form of my life. No injuries, nothing psychologically, fitness, everything was perfect. I had never been perfect since even that was my perfect year. Nothing was wrong. I even came into music. I had a hit. So everything was working for me in 2010. So going into Angola, I remember I did some interviews, and I told the person, me, I'm a prophet. When I'm 100% fit, I predict. So I just said it like I was overconfident, and I told him Ghana will go to the final, and they'll see the best out of me. Like I boasted, I was like, when I'm confident, that is what I do. I just say, so.
And it happened. Your combination with Kojo Asamoah was crazy.
Yes.
Corner kick, header, long pass against Angola. The Angola one was the sweetest because they shook us up a bit before that game. Did it mean then that as you were going into the World Cup, you thought, I'm going to have this, I'm going to enjoy this more than anything else?
Yes, going back to 2010, I remember our last training to the start of the tournament, because our first game was against Cote d'Ivoire.
Yeah.
We lost 3-1.
Yeah.
I had a small injury on my muscle again. I was like, not again.
Yeah.
Because that tournament, I saw it coming. So if you could remember that game, I didn't start.
Yeah.
I came on and then I scored through a penalty. Yeah. That was when I was becoming, but everything worked perfect.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And then we went to the World Cup itself. First game, Serbia. It was in Pretoria, yeah. And then I think we're in Rustenburg against Algeria. Again, you scored as well. Then you were unplayable in that World Cup. What was your big motivation?
Yes. During the qualifiers, I always say shout out to Prince Tego. Because after the AFCON, I was having some muscle problems and everything. So there were games that I could have played for Ghana, but because they knew I was very, very tired, they had to exclude me. And then Prince Tego was doing so well for Kosovo.
Yeah.
And then they invited him to the national team. He was scoring.
Yeah.
Prince Tego was scoring during the qualifiers. So I would say in 2010 qualifiers to the World Cup, I wasn't that involved. Although I played some games, I scored a couple of goals, but I wouldn't say I was more instrumental in the qualifiers because of my problems. The people, Ghana wanted to, the coach wanted to rest me, for the bigger occasions and stuff. You didn't want to take that risk again. Yeah. So Prince stood up and then he delivered to we qualified to the World Cup.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And then the World Cup itself, you went in there. Penalty against Serbia, you bury it. Penalty against Australia, you bury it. Did you guys believe at any point that you could go as far as you did in 2010?
We were very, very fit at that time, because if you could remember, we had like 75% or 80% of the under 20s that won the under 20 World Cup in 2009. And because that time we had a lot of injuries in the team. Yeah. So Milo also had confidence in the team because he had already taken that team to the AFCON. Yeah. So he had the confidence in the young team.
Yeah, he had that chance to Championship of African Nations.
Yes. So Milo took that risk, because he felt like that team fit his system well. Like everything was working for him well. Yeah. So he thought there was no need to bring more experienced players. He decided to bring few of them to add to the AFCON team. Yeah. And going there, we had a very, very good training camp. The friendly games was good. And then Kevin Prince Boateng also joined. Yeah. In the initial stages, Kevin wasn't the starter. Yeah. He came because he was doing so well, and we knew Kevin. Played in Tottenham, and we respected him so much. So when he came, he also jumped into the team with the chemistry. He's a very fast learner. Yeah. He studied us, and he also came into the team. I think the first game he didn't play, and then the game against Latvia, that was our last friendly game.
The one in Milton Keynes.
Milton Keynes.
Yes.
The coach decided to play me and him, playing behind, and then because he liked to play like a lone striker, so he plays Kojo Asamoah supporting me up front, so he did that team, and it was one of the best games. And Kevin fit into the team. He played wonderfully well. So I think that game was how the coach brought his squad. He built that squad in that last year setup.
Yeah.
And everything was history. We did so well.
Kevin said that when he first came to the national team, he saw you boys, he thought we are going to lose every game. Why are they always singing and dancing? I want the German approach. And then he says when you guys got on the field, everything changed. Was that a deliberate part of the culture, or that was a way of keeping you guys relaxed? Because he said you could be singing one moment. He even said he was wondering, someone I see a professional dancer, and then everything changed. Is that a way by which you try to keep everybody nice, calm, and easy, beat down the tension before it starts?
Yes. Our culture. I remember, like during our course time or the intercourt time. We used to see all these things. Sometimes you are playing against opponent that you feel like you are very, very nervous. You are scared. You have to just do your Jama thing to face them. Takashi thing. So I invented this thing into the Black Stars. I brought it into the national team. We were going to play against South Africa, and they were singing their songs.
Was it a game in Johannesburg?
Johannesburg. So, so that was how everything started. So when Kevin came, he was just a quiet guy. He was just trying to adapt to the culture. I remember he saw me and he liked the way. I remember I said, do you know me? He said, of course, I know you from 2006. I came with my father. I was always at the stadium with my father.
Yeah.
So I thought he didn't know me personally. So when we started the dancing thing and then he said those things, I was saying in my mind, this guy, he doesn't know the culture. He will get involved soon.
And then when you scored against, was it Serbia or Australia? He was dancing by you.
Yes. And he's a very good dancer. Very, very good dancer. He has the Ghanaian blood in him. He's a fast learner. So he felt into, like, the chemistry it got into the team that easily.
Yeah. Because
he had the talent. And the culture was the one that he wasn't able to. But just in the second, sometimes he even sang the Ghanaian song. But on a game day, he's always very, very nervous.
In his zone.
In his zone.
So for the 2010 World Cup, so there were the goals against Serbia, the goals against Australia, against Germany, we lost, and then we were on the pitch trying to figure out whether we had qualified. Then we played against USA in Rustenburg. So one stadium, 2 games. That goal, I personally think, the best goal that you've scored in a Ghana jersey, maybe second to the Algeria one. And then there was the penalty against Uruguay. How crazy was that tournament for you? Describe for me the swinging pendulum nature of your emotions. One moment is there, the next moment is in the middle, the next time is calm down. It's like everything was set almost like a cinema in that tournament.
Yes, I was in the form of my life. I was the most confident player in the world for me at that time. I think I was number 3 best player in the tournament after the 3 group stages. So everything was working for me. I was very, very confident till that penalty miss. As I've been saying this all over. Before the game, I had penalty shootout with Richard Kingston. After the training, I shot about 20 balls. I was scoring. I scored all 20.
Yeah.
So that was when I had that superstition thing. I said, so if we get a penalty tomorrow, how am I? What am I going to do? Because I've scored all the goals here. That was what came into my mind at that time. So I said to myself after the training. So after the penalty, when the penalty came, I was like, it is what it is, because I was the first penalty taker of the team. I was supposed to take it.
Yeah.
I was supposed to take it. So it was, I remember it was Kevin who gave me the ball. Kevin who gave me the ball. Antoniana went outside to pick the ball. Kevin took it from me, and Kevin gave me the ball. So I had to just take responsibility because it was that crucial moment. If I would say I was under pressure, no. I wasn't under pressure at that time. I was under pressure when I scored the 20 penalties with Richard Kingston. But during the field of play, I wasn't under pressure. I was going to do my job because I had already scored two penalties against Serbia and Australia. So going there, I just wanted to just do my job, and then because I would say people criticize or people feel hurt because of the timing.
Yeah.
The time when the penalty was missed. And for me, I saw it as one of those things. We, the players in the playing body, we understand the game. I cried. I did everything. That was the first time something hit me. It would have even ended my career at that time. So Steven came to me and during the penalty shootout, he told me, "Hey, you are the best player. Mistakes happen. Go there. You are in the team. Go and shoot the penalty." So you could see that it came that caption that he was doing like that.
Yeah,
and the people took it wrongly, and then they said he was warning me and stuff. So I had to just recite myself and then go in and take it.
Remind me of, if you can remember this, when you go up against, I've forgotten this Uruguay goalkeeper because he used to be under 20 and all that. When you go up against him, against Serbia, you rolled the ball on the ground. I think, no, against Australia, you rolled the ball on the ground.
Oh, yes.
Against Serbia, you smashed it to the other side of the post, and the goalkeeper is completely gone the other side. And then against Uruguay, you decide you will go up. Was it your strategy to alter all the three penalties anytime you played? Was that your approach, just in case the goalkeeper couldn't read you?
For me, technically, I had it wrong. It wasn't. I wanted to put it at the far corner.
Okay.
I wanted. If you watch the AFCON, my first goal against Guinea, I shot the same penalty, that roof, on the goalkeeper's right. So that was how I wanted to shoot it. I wanted to shoot it like the game against Serbia.
Yeah. But the game against Serbia, the ball didn't lift up. It almost stayed mid-range.
Yes. It was a mid-range, but I was aiming at that far corner. I remember the game against Serbia. When we had the penalty, the goalkeeper came to me, and then he said, "If you put it on my right, I will take it." he just wanted to play psychologically. He said, "If you put it on my right, I will take it." I was like, "Ooh!" And I wanted to put it on his right.
Yeah.
So I ended up putting it on his right, and I scored. So fast forward, that penalty against Uruguay, I didn't get it right technically. How the ball went up. It rained on that day. So I didn't get it right. Technically, the ball. I wasn't expecting the ball to go that high. I was just trying to place it on the goalkeeper's right, far corner. But technically, I had it wrong.
So the mix zone that day, I will never forget this. There were journalists crying in the rest. And all you guys came from the dressing room. How much strength did it take for you to stop and do interviews that day?
I think for me, I would say I always thank God how God created me, because mentally I can come back in any situation. Very, very strong mentally. And the confidence that I have in me is something else. I feel like I have the talent. I have a God-given talent. I can do anything in terms of football. In my position as a striker, from at the age of 9, wherever I played, I was the top scorer. So growing up, goal has been my thing. So if a situation happens and things doesn't go right, I know it hurts at that moment, but I feel like it's part of the game. So that was how I was able to psych myself and make things happen. At that moment on the field, I couldn't take it. I was crying all over. I didn't, because I felt like I let Africans down, I let Ghanaians down. At that moment, things was going through my mind. I wasn't even thinking about myself.
Yeah.
I was thinking about Ghana. I was thinking about Africa. I was thinking about letting people down.
Your mother.
My mother. What is going to happen?
Yeah.
But myself, I understand the game. I know things like that can happen. But I was thinking about what people will go through. How are people going to feel? That was what brought the emotions and everything.
When the ball hit the crossbar, do you remember your first emotion? Were you wishing, no, we've not taken it, I'm going to take it again?
Hi. Up to now, I just wish the world can rewind itself. When I saw it, I was like, it felt like a dream. So a lot of things came into my mind within a second. Wow. Something said you should cry, something said you should hold up,
should I? You're a big boy.
Big boy, crazy. So I had to just hold on the tears. So my prayer was, during the penalty shootout, we should come out victorious. Yeah. And I would have been the happiest man in the world at that time. But it didn't happen. I felt like it wasn't our day.
I will never forget this, and I don't know if you remember, but the following day, I came to the Protea Hotel in Braamfontein, and I think we spoke for about 10 minutes for the BBC World Service, because it's still on their website. And you said that, look, things happen, I'm going to move on, I'm going to become a better player. Did you mean those words that day, or you were trying to give yourself comfort?
I meant it. As I said earlier, I'm somebody who can come back in any situation. Yeah. Sometimes I had to analyze things, how things go. And I felt like these things happen to only the best players. These things happen to only the best players. We saw Roberto Baggio did everything for Italy. At the end of the day, he was from hero to zero. He was able to come back, did what he had a great career. And I felt like I'm a complete striker. There is no any department in the game that I was lacking. Left foot, right foot, jumping abilities, free kick, goal scoring placements, speed. I had everything. So I felt like my chances of scoring in any game, if I'm not exaggerating, should be 95% in every game. So I fell short in that game. I feel like I can redeem myself because I had the whole tools in my bag to deliver in the next future.
2 years later, we went to the Nations Cup. Yeah. And then you missed one against Zambia. But there was maybe 80 minutes to recover, and we never recovered. Was that your most difficult tournament? Because people like Kwabena, there are people who say the confusion among the players and everybody afterwards was so immense. How bad was that tournament? Was that your most difficult tournament as a Black Star player?
That was the moment that hit me. That moment, because I was coming back from 2010 penalty miss, the crucial moment, and then this one was also in the semi-final, crucial moment. So after the game, I said to myself, I need a break, because mental health is important, and somebody who is very, very strong, and then going through all these things, I think I need to chill. I don't have to keep proving myself.
Did you feel sometimes that you were putting too much pressure on yourself?
After that penalty miss, that was when I just had to just calm down. So I remember I called Sammy, my manager, and I told him, listen, when it comes to the national team, let's try and speak to them and then have a break a bit, because the wound that had not already been healed, and then you bring another wound, so it will destroy your reputation in the team. And I remember my mom was also, before she died, those were those things she was saying, that when it comes to penalty, when it comes to the national team, I shouldn't get involved again in those things. And she was the same person. After I wrote a letter to the national team that I needed a break, she was the same person who told me to come back.
Yeah.
That was when Kwesi Appiah was the new coach.
Yeah.
Kwesi Appiah came to Dubai at that time
Yeah.
to speak to me. So I had to just reverse my decision. So I think that penalty hit me very, very well. So I decided to just.
Did it hit you as much as the chaos in the dressing room afterwards that day? I remember Mill coach was it Goran Stevanovic spoke about you, the players not liking each other and everything. Did you feel that day that the unity that you guys had built so efficiently from 2008, 2006, 2010 was badly threatened the day we couldn't beat Zambia?
For me, I didn't hear anything about what the coach said. Because that time my mind was.
You were thinking about your stress.
Yes, my mind was already gone. So things that happened later was I didn't honestly, I didn't hear anything. What I heard was Ghanaians were very, very upset with the coach when he took me off.
Yeah.
They were like, he was, and I was having a good game at that time, and I was even feeling I could score in that game when I was taking off. So that was what I was hearing. But the coach saying we had problems and stuff, that I think I didn't hear.
And then a year later, we go to the Nations Cup in South Africa, and then a semi-final. And then 2015, you were in the 2015 squad where we were within 2 penalty shootouts of winning the Nations
Yes,
Cup.
I was the captain.
It was crazy. It was crazy. From almost exiting the tournament when you scored against Algeria with the malaria, and then we go through all the way to the final.
Yeah.
2-0 in the penalty, and we missed. That was the second Nations Cup final that you were losing. And in that manner. Were you thinking at that point, I'm never going to win this trophy?
As a captain, yes. As a captain, I felt like they took what belongs to us just a twinkle of an eye, because we had our destiny.
Or you allowed them to take it?
It's like we allowed them to take it. I would say that, because we had our destiny in our own hands. They missed 2 penalties. And even that one, I was more even hurt than anything, because I wanted to relive the cup as a captain.
Yeah.
And everything happened that way. I was there. As a captain, I gave up.
Yeah, that day was it.
I gave up, but I gave up during that time. But after, I had to just recite myself, and then I said, hey, it's not over. But that moment, I was like, when are we going to win this again? Because they've missed first 2. How can we lose this? Yeah. So yeah.
But a year before, you had become Africa's top scorer at the World Cup. Something Roger Miller couldn't do, and Nwankwo Kanu couldn't do. Adebayo played in one, couldn't touch it. Not Nuruddin Nebed, not Mustafa Haji. Not even Noman Beyek, who scored against Argentina back then. I'm a big fan of the World Cup, so I know the names from the top of my head. That day in Brasilia, could you Asamoah with that? I've forgotten the way they call that thing.
External.
They call it trequista or something. He was mentioning it in Italian. I was a bit confused that day. But he crosses the ball.
External call.
Yeah.
External.
He crosses the ball, and then you are at the end of it into the goal, I think, and we go immediately. And did you know immediately that you had beaten a record?
Yes.
You knew?
Yes.
Yeah. You keep an eye on those?
It's a normal thing, when you are starting. It's like you're starting a league.
Yeah.
Like how Leicester won the league.
Yeah.
They were playing, they wanted to perform, but it got to a time they knew they had to win the league.
Yeah.
So they were focused on winning the league. I came to the Black Stars thinking I want to, score goals and help my country. But I got to a time I felt like, there's a record to be broken.
It's within sight.
It's within sight. So it comes naturally.
Yeah.
So when I had 5, people were calling me, hey, now 5-5 with Roger Miller. So I was like, hey, then I have to try and then
let me take it.
Let me take it. Even being the all-time goal scorer for Ghana, it got to a time people had to call me, you are leveled with this player, you have to just try and score more and set records. So honestly, yes.
Was that achievement dampened by everything around the 2014 World Cup? Was it Remember all the issues around the 2014 World Cup, even before the Portugal game, the issues over money. Did it sort of beat down the achievement in your mind for you because you couldn't celebrate it as much?
Yeah, there were a lot of things that went on behind the scene. It's rather unfortunate. When things happen, there are people to be blamed. We were the playing body. I was the captain at that time. There were a lot of things that went on, but sometimes we, the playing body, we understand it. Everybody thinks differently. The fans also has their opinion, but sometimes they are the majority. So sometimes you have to just accept it in good faith, because when you are fighting, you are alone and you are fighting 10 people. Logically, you can't beat 10 people.
Yeah.
But you know what you are saying is the right thing. It's truth. You know within yourself. But 10 people say no. So what can you do? You have to accept it and move on. So as the Ghanaians, we felt like, okay, Ghanaians were not happy with what we did. We felt we were right at that time, but we had no choice. Yeah. It affected in the game because we went to sleep late. We woke up very, very tired. Although we had one of the best games, and football needs concentration, and a lot of things happened. And we had to apologize to Ghanaians because Ghanaians were very, very angry at that time. But it is what it is.
What happens. In 2010, apart from the goals you scored, what was the best thing about the tournament for you? Was it meeting Mandela? Was it a crowd in Johannesburg? Was it walking down Mandela Square and everybody says Gyan, Gyan, Gyan? Or is it still the benefit that you get out of it as a person up to now?
For me, what I was happy about the tournament is I had a great tournament. It's normal when you are doing well, fans will mob you, but personally, I was very, very happy with my performance and the whole team performance.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't only the player who did well. Everybody from A to Z, even players at the bench, you could see the team spirit. Everybody was doing his job.
And then after that Uruguay game, Mandela puts a phone call through to the team and says, I need to see you guys. That was huge, eh?
Yes, it was huge. And I remember he couldn't see that well, but when we were greeting him and he saw me, he was like, Jan. I was like, oh. That was one of the happiest moments. He was able to recognize me. I was like, hey. That time, my name was coming up. Like from 2009 to 2010, I showcased myself to the world. Although the 2006 World Cup, I had a great tournament, but from that time was when the whole world knew as Asamoah Gyan.
Yeah.
So when he mentioned my name, you are Gyan, and I was like, whoa.
This is a big deal.
If Mandela can recognize me, everybody should go.
Let's do a few myth busters here. I had an ex-player say recently that maybe the biggest thing that you shouldn't have done was to leave Sunderland early. Do you feel like you left Europe a bit too early at the time that you did?
It's a yes and no. Yes and no thing. At that time, what I would say is it wasn't my will to leave Sunderland at that time. I was there one day and Larry Quinn, he was a very, very nice man.
Yeah.
Great man. One of the best men I've ever seen. Very, very good man. They approached me, the team approached me, and they were like, a team from UAE wants your signature for a loan deal. I was like, it was a surprise to me. I had never dreamt of playing in UAE. I'd never dreamt, because my first season with Sunderland I had a great season. I was a fan's favorite. Everything was working for me. There were rumors. Liverpool and Tottenham wanted me. There was rumors. It wasn't that clear. So I felt like, okay, things are getting better. So when they approached me, honestly, they persuaded me to go to the UAE, because that time I didn't know what was going on in the club. So I heard there were some financial issues. They wanted. So when they had the opportunity to go on loan, They said, Asamoah, you can go for just one season. And then the loan deal was 10 million.
Yeah.
10 million pounds at that time for just one season.
Huge money.
It was huge money for the club. And then they felt like I can go on loan and then come back to Sunderland. So but I wasn't ready. So when they sent me my contract, the contract stated if Alain decides to keep me, they will pay an extra 4 million. So they agreed on the deal. You understand? So when they agreed on the deal, I also saw my part, and I was like, okay, it's not a bad deal for a loan. So when I moved there, I became the top scorer. I was doing everything right. I fell in love with the culture and the place. So I decided to go on with the option. But initially, I was like, I'll go on the loan deal and then come back to Sunderland. But when I went there, everything changed. Scoring goals, confidence level, life was good. I felt like everything was okay for me. And I was scoring goals, so no need for me to go back.
Do you wish you had played a bit longer in the Premier League, though?
That was, sometimes you have to listen to people's opinion. People always tell me that, and sometimes when they tell me that, sometimes I sit back and I was like, what they are saying might be true, but I decided to think about myself, to make sure after football I can be more comfortable with my life, because after football nobody really will care about you that much, because your time will pass, a new person will come. So I had to think about myself. But honestly, I always listen to what people say, which is a valid point, because they felt like I had the potential to compete in Europe. And they are right there. But honestly, I also have to think about what is good for me. So it's a balance there.
Are you comfortable after football?
Yes, I'm comfortable after football. But I miss the game. There were things that when I was playing, I was able to do easily. But after football, it's everything led to depression. You remember I said it in my press conference. Sometimes things that you used to do, you don't see it. You want to play, you want to do professional things, you want to score goals to make people happy. Like everything just vanish. So psychologically, it's really, really, really.
It takes a lot of courage for people to talk openly about depression. Why did you decide to talk about it?
Yes, because it has never happened to me before. I see people going through that. I took it for granted. So mine came. So I felt like somebody who has that exposure, somebody who people listen to, who people trust. I'm the one who always make people happy. And somebody like this to go through that, it's real. So I just wanted people to understand that mental health is real. Depression is real. You can have the whole world, but when something doesn't click well, you go through it.
Is this the biggest battle you will fight? Is this on the scale of this versus your comeback in the Uruguay game, your comeback after Ghana 2008? How big is this a battle for you?
The biggest battle, because there were a lot of things that went on behind. I felt betrayed, and I felt like from when I started playing football, I had to just bring everything back, because when I was playing, I was more active, so I didn't think about all these things, But when after my career, sometimes you are alone, you're thinking about all these things, and you feel like people didn't treat you well. This one did that. This one did that. A lot of it's not just one thing. A lot of things went on, and then all of a sudden, naturally, it just came like that.
What would so you're involved? You were named the Black Stars, national team, ambassador, coach football ambassador. These are your two loves. You literally played for the Black Stars straight away out of coach.
Yeah.
And you've played for the national team. What are you hoping to achieve with that?
Yes.
In that role?
Being an ambassador for all the national teams and coach football, I think I've been a product of all these things, coming. And it's a discussion that we used to do behind the scene. And I think for me, Ghana is a football nation. And what I think is we've lost our fundamentals a bit. Our time, nobody taught us how to even pass the ball. But I think this generation, we have a lot of facilities around. We have academies, we have players who know how to teach the ball, but we have to teach them the psychological part, which means, like, talking about the psychological part, you cannot be doing just the theory and not be doing the practicals. It's like we have a lot of teams that have been training, but they don't play week in, week out. Talking about leagues, we talk about these juvenile teams. We need to have a league that everybody will play week in, week out to compete. Because coast level, every Saturday, you have a match. You train every week, and then Saturday you have a league match. So we build that thing
very early
to the Premier level. So before we came to the Premier level, we were ready. At that young age. I was in Accra Academy. I was playing for Liberty Professionals. I was scoring against Accra Suffolk. Because I was playing week in, week out. But now, it's like training. Once in a while, they go and play tournaments. For me, it's very, very disturbing. And now we have too many AstroTurfs in Ghana. We need to have the normal green grass, because that is where we play football. So there are a lot of things that we need to put in place. And me and my team, we've not started work yet. We'll start work, and we'll make sure we bring that fundamentals and then support grassroots football and also the national teams.
You
too many bad Africans.
Okay.
But
Okay.
People are saying that the AstroTurf is a way of providing facilities in an open space. Is it the problem with the AstroTurf or the nature of the AstroTurf?
I think it's the nature of the AstroTurf. When you want to do AstroTurfs, you have to do a very good AstroTurf. That can fit in the standard. Sometimes a big man comes to the area, he wants to help. You just have to do AstroTurf for the community and stuff. But when you have to do a very, very good AstroTurf to risk injuries and stuff. And because when you are playing a competitive football, you won't meet AstroTurf. Unless once in a while, maybe they have weather problems or something before when you're playing international, you see a country playing on an AstroTurf. You have to play on a real grass. And the problem is the maintenance. So there are a whole lot. So we shouldn't depend on AstroTurf because the surfaces are different kind of, because you see some players that growing up, I think 80% they've been playing on AstroTurf. So when they get to that level, it's like tennis. We have the grass, we have the clay, different surfaces. You can play very good on the AstroTurf. When you come to the real grass, it will affect your performance, which is a normal thing. And Ghana and football is played on a real grass. So we need to balance those things. And I do understand we Africans where we go because the problem is maintenance.
So we need
I haven't seen a very good grass that has been maintained with that standard for a couple of years. Because when it rains, we don't maintain it and then everything goes by. So if we want to do an AstroTurf, we have to do a quality AstroTurf at least.
For everybody.
Yes.
There was a time when you said you might become an MP. Would used to become an MP?
No.
You changed your mind. Politics say Joe me.
I'm not a politician. I'm not a politician. I just wanted to help people.
Okay.
I just wanted to help people. But all comes within mistakes. It's a human error. So I'm not going to repeat that thing again.
Yeah,
I thought I was going to help people.
You're not going to go near politics again.
Nah, I'm not a politician.
Okay.
I'm not a politician. I was going to help people. You know, giving me that position, I wanted to help people. You know, but I'm not a politician.
Right.
I eat football. I sleep football. Football made me who I am. Everybody knew me through football. Every political party in Ghana knew me through football. So I'm here to bring people together, not for myself. You know, so the road that has been given to me, I'll just do my best. You know, with the collaboration of the GFA, the sports ministry, you know, to hold corporate Ghana, to hold a couple of meetings, you know, to sponsor grassroots football, and hopefully we'll bring back Ghana football.
A few questions before before World Cup related questions. If you were to advise Carlos Queiroz with the experience of your World Cup in 2006, 2010, 2014, having seen Qatar 2022 about the World Cup, what would you say to him, especially as he prepares to name a squad and as he prepares to go into the competition?
Now, things seems to not be going in our way, and as an experienced person, when you are home and you feel like your security is not good, you have to fix your security first to make sure people don't enter first before you can think about the other things. So I think we should be more defensively sound in our game before we think about other things. You know, if we don't fix our defense, opponent can penetrate easily, because it looks like now we are conceding in every game.
Yeah.
So if we are able to be more defensive sound, like what the Moroccans did in Qatar, and what we did in 2010, I think it's something that will help. You know, I'm a technical man outside, but I'm not a coach. You know, but that's my advice. We should be more defensive sound, not to concede before we can think about the other things.
How far do you think Ghana will go in the competition?
We are all hoping everything goes right. It will depend on the playing body. I always say I won't be a hypocrite to be a fan, although I'm a fan now, but I've been in the game. You know, everything depends on the playing body. We have to just prepare well, you know, to go and make sure we deliver to Ghanaians to be happy. But when we are there and we don't prepare well and we say we can say anything, we are going to win the cup, everybody can say it. It's very, very easy to say it. You know, so it depends on how we are going to approach the World Cup. We have the tools, honestly. We have the tools. We have young players coming up. You know, the experience is a bit dicey, you know, but me as a Ghanaian now, as somebody who has been in the game, we'll do everything possible. We'll give our support, and I'll urge Ghanaians to give their support to the team. You know, we have a new coach whose time limit his time is very, very limited. You know, but we have to just give the coach the hope and support to qualify.
Who do you think will win the World Cup?
Ghana.
Apart from Ghana, who do you think will win the World Cup?
Huh?
Apart from Ghana.
I'm a Ghanaian, so Ghana will win. Ghana has to win it. It comes back to what I'm saying. I'm a Ghanaian. I have to support my own. Ghana will win. But are we ready? It depends on the playing body. We, the experienced people who have been there before, we also deliver our experience. We psych the boys up. When things go well, we all enjoy together.
What do you think will represent success for Ghana in this World Cup?
As I said, we should be more fit. We should be more focused, not to concede. I think it will help us, because for me, I've had that experience. It helped us in 2010. You know, going into that tournament, we went with inexperienced players. You know, we had I was more clinical, you know, so we were blocking everywhere. And then one chance can change everything. If you don't concede, It's 1 point. So we have to be more defensive sound, make sure we don't concede. Anything can happen in football.
If you could bring one player back from 2006, 2010 to join the current team, who would it be?
2010?
From 2006 and 2010 to join the current team, who would it be?
Now we need more defense.
Hmm.
We need more defense. So John Mensah.
Ah, I was speaking to him this morning. He was good, eh?
John Mensah.
Ah, he was good.
John Mensah.
He was
John Mensah is one of the best defenders I've ever played with.
very good.
He had everything. Injuries ruined his career, but for me, he's one of the best.
Who is a player you're looking forward to watching most at this World Cup?
In this World Cup,
Yeah. Don't say a Ghanaian player, I understand.
I can't say it now. I can't say it
Wait
now.
for it.
If I'll say something, I'll be biased. So I would just wish everybody well. You know, I'll be doing some analysis. You know,
Okay.
so
Well, we should be waiting for the announcement.
everybody should watch out. I'll be doing some analysis in the World Cup. I'll be with the team as well. You know, so there are a lot of things we will do during this World Cup. So yes.
It's your Cocoa season. Enjoy. Thank you very much.
Thank you.